Hey, good people. Welcome to the Evolving Education Project podcast, hosted by me, Dr. Tiffany M. Niachai, and friends, where we center the educational joys, passions, interests, and inquiries of people of color. This is episode 29, where my guests describe how Black students are criminalized and over-disciplined in the Los Angeles Unified School District, LAUSD. We discuss how the police-free LAUSD coalition has been successful in improving schooling conditions for Black students, such as banning the use of pepper spray by school police against students. My guests argue that change for students doesn't happen without concern for their families and communities. We would like to begin by shouting out the cities, townships, and areas of our newest listeners. We have new listeners in San Diego, California, Ocala, Florida, Midway City, California, Portland, Oregon, Richmond, Virginia, and Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Our audience is growing, y'all. And we know it's because of word of mouth. Thank you. We appreciate y'all for pressing play and listening in your car, at the gym, on your walk, wherever. We are also so grateful for the 5-star reviews we've received on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please continue to share this podcast with others. I also want to shout out one of our listeners with the YouTube handle at Passion84 God Always, who left a comment about our logo on episode 27. They wrote, "Not me tearing up at my desk when I noticed the thumbnail includes I love us and we are everything. Pleading face emoji, smiling with tear emoji, loudly crying emoji, smiling with hearts emoji, diamond emoji, raising hands emoji, praying hands emoji." We are so glad that those words of affirmation touched you. We are everything, okay? You better know it. Thank you to scholar, artist, my good friend and sister, Dr. Grace D. Player, who designed our logo as, in her words, an envisioning of the ethos of love, care, vibrancy, and transformative power that Dr. Niachai centers in her work, including the Evolving Education Project. Aw, isn't that just beautiful? I'm so honored. Love you, sis. This episode features the work of the Police-Free LAUSD Coalition, Part 3 of our Youth Resistance Unsettling the Good Citizen series, the final episode in this series. To start from the beginning of the series, go to episode 27 and listen all the way through. We don't want you to miss any part of this powerful series, which is inspired by the book, The Promise of Youth Anti-Citizenship, Race, and Revolt in Education, edited by Drs. Kevin L. Clay and Kevin Lawrence Henry Jr. Today, we will be in conversation with 2 youth leaders and 1 staff member from the Police-Free LAUSD Coalition. According to their 2022 report, the Police-Free LAUSD Coalition began in 2020 to center the experiences and voices of Black youth and communities, meanwhile recognizing that racial equity for Black people inherently results in a more equitable and just society for all. Their work is grounded in the following principles: centering the needs, experiences, and leadership of Black parents, communities, and especially Black youth; believing that the people closest to the issues are the ones closest to the solutions; supporting abolition and pushing to fully defund the Los Angeles School Police Department and create a police-free LAUSD, all the while pushing to reimagine school safety and fund Black futures. Sharing leadership and responsibility to collectively hold this work, striving to move in operational unity under the acknowledgement that our communities have leadership and cultural funds of knowledge and wealth to leverage our own liberation. The Police-Free LAUSD Coalition is composed of the following partners: Students Deserve, Labor Community Strategy Center, the Brothers, Sons, Selves Coalition, United Teachers Los Angeles, Reclaim Our Schools Los Angeles, Inner City Struggle, Community Coalition, Communities for a Better Environment, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, Social Justice Learning Institute, and Community Asset Development Redefining Education. So excited to be in conversation with 2 youth leaders and 1 staff member from the coalition. Jeremiah Salazar is a South Los Angeles youth leader with Community Coalition, student, and South Central activist. Born and raised in South Los Angeles, Jeremiah is passionate about uplifting his community and helping others. To help bring opportunities and resources to his school and community, he joined Community Coalition's South Central Youth Empowered Through Action program in 2022 and has led and organized within the police-free LAUSD coalition. He has also worked to transform his community through Bold Vision's Youth Council. Joelle Hennington Jeffries is a senior at Hamilton High School in LAUSD, as well as a dedicated leader within Students Deserve. She is also the founder of Young Authors, a club for writers at Hamilton. Joelle is committed to student advocacy for students' rights and creative expression across LAUSD. Additionally, she supports the Black community by participating in the Black Student Advisory Council and Black Women for Wellness. Through the police-free LAUSD coalition, she helped to develop the Black Student Achievement Plan. Joseph Williams is a community organizer, activist, police-free LAUSD coalition staff member, and the director of Students Deserve. In these roles, and alongside others, significant victories against the criminalization of students and towards advancing educational justice and equity in LAUSD have been won. In fact, Joseph is the 2021 recipient of SCLC's Millennial Justice Award for his organizing work as a community leader and justice fighter. Prior to joining Students Deserve, he was an organizer with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Local 3299, the University of California's largest employee union. There, he coordinated the statewide student organizing program supporting students to lead campaigns for race, class, student, worker, and immigrant justice, including helping to insource hundreds of contracted workers at UC Berkeley and UCLA. Okay, let's listen in on our conversation about the work of the police-free LAUSD coalition. All right, hello. How y'all doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
Good. So happy to have you all here today. And I'm extra excited because I have young people. Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all something. Last time I had some people on and I thought that they were youth. And then they told me in the middle interview that they didn't want to be called youth. They wanted to be called young adults. So let me just clear this up, right? And I respect it. You tell me whatever you want me to say. You tell me what to say. So what y'all want to be called? Do y'all want to be called youth? Can I say youth or you want young adults? Because I want to be respectful.
I think either or is fine. I'm not unk, so youth is fine with me.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to say youth. So I'm going to go back to what I was saying. I'm so happy to have youth on because I love youth. I love young people. And I was telling Joelle earlier that I used to be a teacher and I used to teach middle school social studies and literacy for 7 years. And then that's why I can't wait to have this conversation because the school I was working at, my principal pissed me off. And I went down the street and said, I'm getting a PhD. And I didn't know what I was getting into. And here I am, a whole professor and a researcher. Or else I would still be teaching. But so I'm really excited to hear about this because some of my work as a researcher is about the criminalization of Black girls and how we can fight against that in schools, criminalization, hypersexualization, disposability of Black girls. And so I'm really interested to hear, thinking about this is the inspiration for this edited book by Drs. Kevin Clay and Kevin Lawrence Henry, The Promise of Youth Anti-Citizenship, Race and Revolt in Education. And they're talking about how Black kids in particular, and other kids of color in schools get positioned as like just not citizen, but even though they are positioned that way, they use that in their power. And so this coalition just fit. So that actually Dr. Clay, one of the authors, recommended your coalition. I'm interested in the work, like people who are on the ground really doing this work that we write about in these books. And some professors, there are scholar activists. I'm so happy to have you here because I feel like your coalition really enacts the things that a lot of the authors were writing about in this book. That's why I want to learn more about it. I want people, everyone listening, I want you to support this coalition and support these young people and all of the organizations that are working together that make this coalition. So first, can y'all introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, so when they hear your voice, they'll know who you are. Everybody that's on, we got some really dope people on, youth, and we have a youth worker or a young. Wait, you introduce yourself, Joseph. Anybody can go.
Hi, my name is Joelle. I'm a senior at Hamilton High School, and I'm a leader within Students Deserve.
What do you do as a student leader?
I organize. I talk to the school board. I'm active within my community. I feel like that's very vague, but that is what I do.
Okay, so we got a real youth organizer on. Okay, talking to school boards and everything. Love it. And we'll probably follow up about that even more. Okay, sorry, Jeremiah.
No, you're fine. Hi, I'm Jeremiah Salazar. I'm a youth leader with Community Coalition. Part of the activities I do in my coalition, I speak and represent on behalf of youth in South Central Los Angeles. I like to do a lot of advocating, a lot of speaking on things that matter, things that need change and positive energy in. I do public speakings and board speakings and things like that.
And what was something that either the last thing you had to speak on to advocate for others, or something that you most remember and I'm going to ask you that too, Joelle, about organizing, so you could be getting ready. What is something that sticks out with you, or like the last work you did, or maybe something you spoke on?
Something I spoke on that I think still resonates with me to this day was speaking on why it's important to fund more and put more resources into our custodians at school for their strike a few years ago. And I had the chance and opportunity to go on stage and give a speech on why it's important that we show them our appreciation as students, as other staffs, and as people in general, for them being able to come and do the hard work that doesn't go unseen.
Yes. Thank you, Jeremiah. Joelle, you got something you remember, either organizing or speaking to the school board?
Recently speaking to the school board, like last month, I had spoken outside during our action, and I had spoke about why it's important for BSAP, the Black Student Achievement Plan, to keep its funding within LAUSD, and why it's important to not only keep its funding, but to implement it not just to the few schools that it's implemented in already within LAUSD, but within all LAUSD schools.
So y'all out here advocating for custodians and programming, enrichment programming for Black youth, and so that it can be expanded, so that it continue to have its funding. Ooh, they showing us up, y'all. We got to get to work. We got to get to work. These youth out here working. Okay, Joseph.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having us on, Tiffany. I'm so excited to be on with y'all, especially with powerful young folks like Joelle and Jeremiah. I am Joseph Williams, the director of Students Deserve. And Students Deserve is one of the organizations that helped to pull together the Police Free LAUSD Coalition in 2020 that helped to create, like Joelle was talking about, the Black Student Achievement Plan. And that community coalition that Jeremiah is from is also a partner in. And Students Deserve is a grassroots youth-led organization with chapters in about 30 LAUSD schools, fighting to end the school to prison pipeline and fighting to make Black Lives Matter in schools, which means, a whole host of things, right? Divesting from school policing and push out and criminalization of young people, and also pushing the school district to invest in the kind of things that young people really need and deserve, like custodians, like Jeremiah was saying, who come from their communities and look like them and deserve to have, livable wages because they're our family members, right? And their kids go to our schools as well. Like the Black Student Achievement Plan, like Joelle was saying, that our young folks really need, and like so many other things. So yeah, that's some of what we do, and we do it. We could not do it without the power of young people like Joelle and like Jeremiah.
That is so awesome. I have so many thoughts, and I'm like, should I ask this question now? Should I save it later? How do you all attract young people to the work, Joseph? Like, how do you recruit young folks? How do you attract? Do you like already see these young folks doing things, and then you're like, do you want to work with us? Or like, how do you all do that?
Well, I want to first ask how Joel and Jeremiah got involved, and then I'll see if what we doing is working. And I can share a little bit more after that, for sure.
Yes.
A friend of mine had been in Students Deserve like all throughout her school career, and she told me about it, and I just came with her to one of the meetings, and I had gotten really interested in it, and she graduated earlier this year.
I think for me, it was just like I used to look up to Martin Luther King a lot. So just wanting to be part of a movement that benefited and helped the black people, to evolve and flourish. It was something that I wanted to be engaged with, especially being a black individual in school, knowing that there are certain resources and opportunities that aren't presented to me. I felt like I wanted to be part of the team that went out and got those resources and opportunities for the next generation to come.
Powerful, powerful, absolutely. So just to add on to that, I think to Joel's point, that's what an organizer is, right? An organizer is somebody who's bringing somebody else into the movement. And so she was brought in by one of her friends. And now, I've seen Joel bring her friends and other classmates and peers into some of the organizing. And of course, like Jeremiah said, those folks get interested in how do we fight for our people? We see what's happening in our schools and in our communities, and how do we fight to change that for the better and to make the improvements that we know students deserve in our name. So that is definitely for us, one of the main ways is young people bringing in other young people and saying, this work is important. It means something to me. I know that the more of us who get involved, the more power we have, the more that our voices can make an impact versus me just standing here by myself. And so we in Students Deserve try to empower young people to be their own leaders and organizers, and to talk about this stuff with their friends and to help recruit their friends and bring their friends into the movement. And I know Coco has, a way that they operate with certain schools where they're in schools and they get to connect with some of the young people in those schools, and some of our other partners, Inner City Struggle and other folks, do similar things. And so we have like a really wide range of how we get our folks involved, but ultimately it boils down to organizing, right? Talking to our friends, talking to our colleagues, our classmates, our coworkers, and saying, hey, your voice is important. And I know you see that things in our school could be better. I know you see that we deserve different resources that we don't deserve, and our classmates don't deserve to be getting criminalized and handcuffed and pepper sprayed on campus. You getting involved matters, and it makes a difference. And so I think Joelle has seen, since her friend got her involved, that her being involved makes a difference. And she's played a big role in helping bring in and activate other young people into the movement as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. I'm gonna call you co-host, Joseph, because I like how you was like, well, let's hear from the young people. That's right. You come on this show. You ask a question, you come on it. I love it. I love it. Thank y'all for sharing your important work. And I'm gonna jump into these questions. I might move around a little bit. Like I said, you could change them up. It's your show. I know that I'm in a group right now, the four of us, who understand very clearly what's happening in schools with Black youth, the history of Black youth in schools when it comes to criminalization and discipline. But I want to hear it from your perspectives, especially to set the stage for listeners, because one thing about this podcast is we try to make these conversations more accessible to people who are interested in education around people of color, but may not be reading journal articles, right? May not know about, they may not be activists, they may not be, organizers. And so could you set the stage for us? So like, in your view, and maybe what you experienced in school or what even if you didn't experience, how are Black youth viewed in schools? And what do they often experience in schools, and why, according from y'all perspective?
I'll say in my own experience, definitely Black students are seen as the problem child, problem children, the group of individuals that are more than likely going to be the prime suspect in a situation. Then two, just favoritism in classrooms, like who gets to be first doing this or that. And then being single outed by teachers was something I was victimized of. So that's something that I feel like is a big downside for Black students in schools.
I appreciate what you're saying because it sounds like you're talking about not only the discipline in terms of behavior, but also like your learning experiences being, criminalized where you can't even learn
Right,
properly, right?
right.
And I think that's an important duality that's happening. So thank you.
At my school, I want to say that we're often overlooked or chastised in a sense. And it's weird because at my school, my principal will boast about how we're one of the most diverse schools within the district. But when it comes to Black students, she isn't really down with uplifting us as she should be. We're just often overlooked and overshadowed, and we are seen as the problem child. I'm gonna agree with Jeremiah on that. And rather than going into why some Black students are involved within certain situations, they're automatically just disciplined for it rather than going to the root of the issue and trying to figure out what the actual problem is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can I add on to that a little,
of
Tiffany?
course.
I would just say these are things that Joel and Jeremiah are naming, and this is even after we have removed police from permanent on-campus posts in LAUSD. This is even after we created the Black Student Achievement Plan, which targets positive resources to Black youth for the first time in LAUSD's history. And so, this is ongoing, and there is definitely a history of that criminalization and abuse. And we know from 2014 to 2017, Black students made up 8% of LAUSD, but were 25% of all contact with LA school police, and about 30% of students who were arrested by LA school police. And so, even when Black students are such a small percentage of the population, they're disproportionately targeted, criminalized, pushed out of schools, especially, as Joel said, often need a greater level of resources and support. Joel and Jeremiah are really leading that fight to name that this stuff is still happening, and that the district has a responsibility to really end the decades of discrimination against Black students that is still ongoing even today.
I'm so glad you named that. Like, this is after, right? Like the struggle is ongoing. The struggle, another series I did, it was like born out of struggle and the struggle continues. Like, like that's what they a chant that students in Little Village in Chicago fighting for against that school district came up with, right? Born out of struggle and the struggle continues. And it's like you are creating these things and you think people get it and you think that sometimes maybe we know, but you hope people are starting to get it, and if you're going to support certain initiatives that you would change your actions around certain things. So I'm going to ask you another question that I know seems like to some people it may seem like a simple question, but I think, like I told you, our audience, we have people from a lot of different, we have families, we have people who are teachers, people who are not teachers, people are from a lot of different, and I think people hear stuff like defund the police or police should not be around in certain places and they get very confused about that and what that means. Even people who are fighting for Black people and Black lives and all of this type of stuff. So you can either go this route, why should we defund the police, and why should police not be in schools, and especially in LAUSD specifically?
I want to say there's no reason for armed officers or any armed adult to be on a school's campus with teenagers, with youth whatsoever. Whether there's an altercation between students, that can be handled between administrators on that campus who are not armed. Because, for example, let's say that a school fight were to break out. What would an armed officer be able to fix within that situation? Because more often than not, officers do get trigger happy. There was a case at Garfield a few years ago where an altercation did happen on their campus and kids were pepper sprayed, even kids who weren't involved within the altercation. Kids can be pepper sprayed now by school police, but the fact that it used to be okay is an issue. But besides from possible altercations happening, there's no reasons for kids to be walking from class to class and feeling uncomfortable because there's an armed officer on campus. Officers are really there to protect us from outside threats, and because of that, there's no reason for them to be on the school's campus. If anything, they should be outside of the school patrolling the area, protecting us from said outside threats, rather than treating the students who are within the school like they are the threats.
Yeah, that was, I agree with everything she said. I don't think police on campuses is a great idea. I don't think people understand the emotional weight that their presence leaves on students. You know, obviously, when we hear police, we know that police are a group of individuals who deal with criminals. And so knowing that they deal with criminals and then being scrutinized by them, as she was saying, going class to class, is just not a comfortable feeling in a place that should be feeling comfortable.
That was a big question in terms of like defund, versus police on campus. Absolutely agree with Joel and Jeremiah. Police do not belong on campuses, and there's a long, long list of, academic studies that demonstrate presence of school police on campus negatively impacts Black students in particular, but all students of color in terms of academic achievement, in terms of graduation rates, in terms of school discipline rates like suspensions and expulsion, and in terms of arrest and criminalization and school pushout. And so all of those things are negatively impacted by the presence of school police on campus. In terms of policing more broadly, I would encourage folks to go and watch the documentary 13th on Netflix about the 13th Amendment, which quote unquote abolished slavery in the United States, made an exception, that slavery is accepted within the United States as punishment for a crime. And so before the 13th Amendment, there was not the system of policing and mass incarceration that we see today. There was slavery, right? There was enslavement of Black people and oppression in many other ways of other folks of color, attempted genocide of indigenous folks and many other things, right? And after the 13th Amendment, you see the rise of policing and mass incarceration, and many normal things that Black people did were labeled criminal, right? And so even we see, folks like Mike Brown, who was murdered by police in 2014, criminalized for walking home or allegedly walking in the street, right? We see this stuff happen over and over and over again. And the justification is criminalization, right? That these people were criminals. But again, digging deeper, you see that there's a history of who and what is labeled as criminal in this country, and the way in which police are weaponized specifically against Black folks, against indigenous folks, against movements for justice and liberation, right? If you go back and see the civil rights movement, peaceful protesters saying, please let us eat in your coffee shop. And who are they sending in? The police to beat people up, right? So the history of policing in this country has a specific relationship with Black people and other oppressed people. And so when we say defund police or divest from policing, we don't mean we don't want safe communities. We mean policing has never meant safety for our communities. And we actually need to invest in the root causes of what keep our communities safer. And that's definitely not policing, criminalizing, or putting our young people in cages.
Policing never meant safety in our communities. I mean, we could stop the show right there, because I think that explains everything, why, it doesn't work as it is for us. I also appreciate what you were saying, Joelle, about like, we don't need armed police officers in schools around children, because I think about like, even if we compare policing in the US to like other countries, the way like some of their police officers don't even have guns, right? They're de-escalating situations without even putting, drawing a weapon. And it's like something about the way we do it here that is just a mess, really. Okay, so so we talked about like why police don't belong in school. How do you reimagine police-free schools? I know it's something you're working towards. I know the coalition has done a lot of work towards it, and you're still working towards it. So if today it was like exactly how you thought it would be, what would that look like?
For me, I think it would definitely look like more spaces, specifically BSAP being well more resourced with more tools that just help students flourish. I would say BSAP doesn't get funded as much as other groups, other spaces in schools like leaderships and things like that. BSAP kind of gets like the chump change or, the pennies. And I feel like seeing spaces like BSAP for Black individuals, Black spaces specifically, would just be something that I would like to see.
Can you tell me what that stands for?
Black Student Achievement Plan.
Okay, which we've been talking about. Okay, cool.
I think that without police officers within schools, I think students would just feel a lot safer and a lot more comfortable day to day going to classes and stuff. They would feel like they weren't being watched or they weren't being chastised for simply just living and being who they were. They just feel safer. Because I know that in some schools within LAUSD, there are campuses that do have like police stations on them, and I can't even believe to imagine what it would be like to go to a school with that many officers on my campus, or with just for police officers to go there to their stations. I feel like that would be so isolating and just very uncomfortable to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I feel like without having to deal with that at all, students would just be better off and they'd be more comfortable in a place where they're meant to be safe.
Wait a minute. There's a school that has a police station on it? There's like actually a school like that?
There are some schools. I know Venice for sure has one. My best friend goes to Venice. I've seen it there multiple times myself. I know there is another school, but I don't want to mess it up because I don't exactly remember. But Venice for sure has one.
Venice, and then I think downtown Roybal and downtown business magnets might share a campus with the police, LA school police headquarters. So they're constantly seeing school police on campus as well. I would just say also to add to what Jeremiah and Joel said, real implementation of community-based safety, things like safe passage, things like violence prevention and intervention, things like restorative and transformative justice. We know that young people are going to get in conflicts. They're young people. We don't need cops or, criminalization to deal with young people getting in a fight. We need folks who are skilled in intervening and de-escalating conflicts and helping to meet folks' needs. And to Joel's point earlier, I think also a real investment in trauma-informed care. A lot of our young people, we see growing inequality in our communities. We see growing, gentrification and the inaffordability of housing, homelessness among young people in the foster system, young people being pushed out of their homes, young people being criminalized outside of schools in so many ways that they're all bringing with them when they come into schools. And so we really need schools that are able to help young people address and deal with their needs. Schools are where young people spend the vast majority of their time. So we need schools that are not spending, as LAUSD still is, over $50 million every year of education dollars, right? Over $50 million in education dollars on policing and criminalizing young people, right? That money could be better spent in many other ways, as Joel and Jeremiah were saying, and to help meet young people's needs, to help make our schools and our communities safer for sure.
Yes.
And to even add on to that, I would definitely love to see that money be invested in new classes, things to, I would say, better help us prepare for college. There's so much about the college process that is a struggle, that sits heavy on, seniors' minds and things like that. So I would definitely love if high school started having classes where it's preparing us for those classes that we're going to take in college. A lot of students are wanting to be nurses, doctors, and things like that. Some type of pre-med class inside of a high school would look nice. Same thing for an introduction, beginning law for students who want to be law majors in college and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about, maybe because I'm into the learning sciences, I'm into curriculum and instruction. And so I'm always thinking about schools as a place of learning and a lot of different types of learning, right? To your point, Joseph and Joel, I think people forget, I work with teachers, I train teachers, I work with pre-service teachers, and I think we also forget that these are young people growing and learning and figuring out who they are and figuring out how to deal with emotions. So they may not do everything perfectly all the time. And I think I had a lot of experience with that being a middle school teacher, because everybody 7th to 8th grade, that's people say if you could teach 7th to 8th grade, you could teach anything. That's why nothing is hard for me, because you could do that. And they're figuring themselves out. And I remember some of my colleagues would just be so angry and this boy is 12 years old. He is not going to be like this for the rest of his life. This is one moment where he going to be different when he comes to us in 8th grade. Because everything's emotion. You figuring stuff out. You might be going through stuff. And it's why are we, it's also the adultification of Black children. I feel like they don't get the space. So what I would like to see is the space for childhood, to be a young person, to figure things out, to stumble along the way, to play, to imagine, to play with learning, and to have an environment where you can do that. And it's not always about you're being treated like an adult. You don't even get the space to grow, to learn and figure it out. And that's what schools do. That's what we should be doing. Educators and the whole system, we should be supporting you all along the way, like, and helping you get to where you're going. And you are going to have conflicts. Like, it's just like, you are going to have conflicts. You're going to have issues with this person, that, and we need to be having resources because adults have issues. Okay, people who got these good jobs be having issues with people. I tell you, when I see some of the way these people act, and I'd be like, where are we? Are we grown? What is going on, right? So how do we not expect young people to have issues, right? From time to time. And so how do we work through that with the resources and all of that? How would you describe, so I hear safety a lot, and I hear about the push for you, Joseph, like community-led safety plans and all of that. So how would all of you describe a safe school? Like, safety is always a tough word for me. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I've written about it before where I'm just like, safe for whom is safe, but I know we have a lot of different meanings. And I even wrote a tweet when it used to be Twitter a while ago when I was like, I said, teachers, are your classrooms psychologically safe for students? Because I feel like what I saw with colleagues when I go into classrooms, and whether I'm doing research or I'm just there to visit, I see a lot of psychological harm going on. A lot of games, a lot of manipulation, a lot of in a 40-minute period. So how I'm going to learn, and I got to play and see what mood you in and all of this type of stuff, right? So how would you describe a safe school? Like, what is a safe school to you in a lot of different layers, a lot of different ways?
A safe school to me is a place that just makes you feel comfortable, feel welcomed, feel seen, and feel appreciative. And I feel like those can only be of spaces that allow you to find people that you share common goals with, for you to find people who have similar interests as you. And it's like a disease. Like, when you give your body a treatment, you'll get immune to it. People would think that putting police in schools would be the ultimate fix, but no, there's a root cause. If you find that root cause, and then you find ideas like, what, some kids aren't good at associating with others, find lesson plans, find activities, find classes that that they have shared interests, and create that, and promote that, instead of just drowning it with police in schools.
A safe school to me would just be being able to go somewhere and feel comfortable, to feel like you're not only able to trust your peers, but your teachers as well. Regardless of teachers being mandated reporters or not, you're just comfortable enough to talk to them about anything and everything because you know that they're there for you. They're not there to get you in trouble, but they're there to help you. They're there to better you as a person. A safe school would be having small communities on campus I know I could go to because I feel safe in said community or classroom or whatever. Just somewhere that I'm able to feel seen and heard in, like Jeremiah said, just somewhere where I'm comfortable enough to be myself without being judged for it.
I would just add, to everything they said, that a safe school is also connected to community.
Yes.
Connected to parents and families. Shout out to one of our organizations in the Police Free LAUSD Coalition, Cadre. They did a report almost a decade ago now. It's called How Can You Love the Kids But Hate the Parent, right? About how our schools so often pretend, we love Black kids, but we hate these problematic Black parents, even though Black parents are so often coming to advocate for their kids who are being underserved by these systems. And so, safe schools are also schools that really empower parents and families. They are connected to young people, that empower young people to help shape their education, to shape what schools look like, that are connected to the community surrounding them, that are culturally affirming of the young people who go there and their cultures and their systems and families and ways of being, and so many other things. And I would say the elephant in the room in the United States is school shooting. And people say, what about a school shooter? We need police because of school shooters. And again, I would say there are studies, academic studies. Unfortunately, we have had so many school shootings in this country that there are academic studies about school shooting that have proven that actually school police presence does not prevent school shootings, nor does it minimize the number of deaths in school shootings. Even if you look at the recent case in Uvalde a couple years ago, that elementary school, Texas, over 400 police officers, including a school police officer, over 400 police officers from various departments went, and they actually led to greater harm. And instead of them preventing the loss of life, they led to a greater loss of life. And not only that, people in the community said, we knew this young person needed resources. We knew this young person had mental health issues or other issues that needed to be addressed. We knew this a long time ago. And that was never invested in. The preventative measures were never invested in. And the the reactionary measures of police did not help either. And so we know that we invest in LA County alone. The Sheriff's Department, I think, has like an $8 billion budget. LAPD has a $3 billion budget. Literally billions and billions and billions on policing and criminalization. And we are not spending enough to actually meet the needs of our folks who have needs. And that includes young people in our schools.
Yeah. And I also think about how, I don't know the current data, but with school shootings, when they were first, when school shootings were happening on a large enough scale that everybody was saying we need police in schools, they didn't go to those schools that was having all the school shootings. They went to our communities when we weren't having that many school shootings back then. I don't know about today, but I'm just saying, like, it seems like we got policed more and it wasn't even mostly happening in our community. So I was just like, it just didn't make sense to me. That rationale will never make sense to me. But yes, I love that you brought it back to communities, because that's one thing I hated when I was a teacher. I hated when I was in school and hearing, I always tell people all the time, like, I did not go to my PhD program to study racism in schools. I was going to do vocabulary and families and all this, but I sat in those classes and I heard the way these people was talking and I could not believe it. And these are the people that's going to be training the future teachers. These are the people that's going to be working in if we have one still, U.S. Department of Education. These are the people that's going to be the policy makers for education. These are the people that's going, and you saying what? And you really think this? And I'm the only Black person sitting in there. And I'm just like, oh, I'm like, so like they radicalized me to be like, then my whole research thing changed. I was like, and I think like that happens to a lot of us, right? It's not like we go in, or even like when you become an organizer or you become an activist, right? You see stuff. Maybe you just wanted to do art about flowers, but then you keep seeing this stuff and this stuff keep happening in your communities and it radicalizes you and you have to get to work. That's my little take on it. This will be our last one. What changes have you noticed in LA? You said this a little bit, but I'll say it again. What changes have you noticed in LAUSD since the Police Free Coalition, and what changes do you still hope to see?
I've seen less police officers on my school campus, but speaking of, last semester we were able to get police officers off of my school campus, but earlier last week, just out of the blue, I did see 2 police in my school, and I reported it to my Students Deserve chapter leader, Miss Tyler. But even though that we're actively fighting to get police officers off of our school campuses, I still think we have a long way to go, because there was no reason for that to happen at my school, at least, when we thought we wouldn't have to worry about an issue like that anymore. So we're actively fighting and our fight isn't done. So I can say that.
Yeah, I can definitely say that I've seen less cops on campus. Like she was saying, like there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I think that in certain schools where students still see presence of school police, I think that schools need to make sure that they're giving students their word on, not having school police on campus, because, we're trusting them with our safety. And if we're telling them that school police aren't making us feel safe, I just feel like they aren't doing their all to really, give us the best experience in the educational system.
These young people are modest and they have made some really transformative changes. They are not enough, like they're saying, but some really transformative changes we've been able to win since the Police Free LAUSD Coalition came together. Number one, we divested $25 million from the annual budget of the LA School Police Department. So again, prior to 2020, they were the largest independent school police department in the country. And the district was spending almost $80 million of education dollars on school police. So we were able to divest $25 million from school police. We used that money, or pushed the district to use that money, to create the Black Student Achievement Plan, or BSAP, that Jeremiah and Joel were talking about. And that was initially started with that $25 million. It now is an over $120 million annual investment. And it includes things like academic and career counselors, psychiatric social workers, restorative justice teachers, school climate advocates, funding for African American and ethnic studies courses, funding for mentorship and, community partnerships with schools, funding for community-based safety, like safe passage and violence prevention initiatives. All of those things are in the Black Student Achievement Plan, and funding for field trips. Some of these folks have probably gone to or will be going to HBCU tour that has come through BSAP. So all those things did not exist before divesting $25 million from school police and the creation of the Black Student Achievement Plan. And then in addition to that, like Joelle and Jeremiah were naming, police were, prior to 2020, permanently stationed on almost every single school with a significant number of Black students in the district. Permanently every day they had police. We also removed the permanent stationing of police from campuses in LAUSD, although there's still work to get them to not come onto our campuses as much as they do. And we banned the use of pepper spray by school police against students on or off campus because of incidents like Joelle named earlier. So there's a bunch of wins that young people like Joelle and Jeremiah have led and contributed to over the last 5+ years, really built on decades of work, even before the Police Free LAUSD Coalition was formed, to help end the school to prison pipeline, transform school discipline, and transform the way that schools in LA are treating Black students in particular, as well as Brown, Indigenous, Latinx, and other students of color, and students with disabilities, and LGBTQ students and foster students, who also are all disproportionately criminalized. And there is still a lot of work to be done. Like Joelle and Jeremiah were saying, there are threats to bring school police back to campus. There are threats, or actually the school district just recently removed Black as a factor in the Black Student Achievement Plan. They're no longer using race to target resources through BSAP. So there's a number of things that are, threatening some of those victories. There's also a number of really massive victories that Joelle and Jeremiah and other young people like them and the Police Free LAUSD Coalition have helped to fight for and win.
Mm-hmm. You better run them stats. Run those stats. Y'all have been working. Well, thank y'all so much for being here, for being on. I know this is going to be so helpful and just hopeful for other organizers and activists and also families and teachers to know that there are coalitions that's out here really fighting. Even if it's not in your city, maybe you can look to the Police Free Coalition, LAUSD, as a model, as an example to get the fire going in your city and in your area, because it is possible. Even I didn't get to ask this question and I won't ask it, but I even think you all are a model for, which, I see a lot, for how to bring different organizations together to make a coalition. Instead of all of us, I'm from Buffalo, New York, all of us doing our own little things and you doing this over here and you doing this over here, where we could come together and form a coalition. So I appreciate the examples you have. So thank y'all. I'm going to respect your time. I'm only 5 minutes over. That's good.
Tiffany, can I make one last call to action for your listeners?
Yes, do it.
Yes. So, like I said, LAUSD, after a attack by a right-wing organization, removed race as a factor for targeting resources in the Black Student Achievement Plan. So they're no longer looking at the race of students to target what is a small bit of funding that is supposed to go to Black students. So we're asking folks to sign our petition to help us join this fight with us. That petition is at bit.ly/defendbsap. That is bit.ly/defendbsap. And the D is capital and all of BSAP is capital. And then also, if you want to know more about our work or about safe schools without police, please visit our website at safeschoolslausd.com, safeschoolslausd.com, to learn more about the Police Free LAUSD Coalition, some of the work that we're doing in LA.
Thank you, Joseph. And all of that will be in the show notes. And when you see me share the trailer on social media and all that, I will make sure I put those links, especially the petition link, right in the social media posts. All the links and even the reference to the documentary that you referenced, all that will be in the show notes. So I will definitely push that when I push this out through social media. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. Yes, I'm just so proud of the work that you're doing. I want y'all to be encouraged and just keep going. Yeah, thank you for the example you set for me. And academics listening, we need to support these groups. So get it together. We can't just be writing about it. We need to support. I'm always getting in trouble. I'm used to it. But anyway, And I'm so proud of you, Joelle and Jeremiah. I'm just so proud of y'all. Y'all just keep going, keep being a leader, keep fighting for what's right as a young person. And I mean, this is just the beginning of your journey as organizers, as activists, and stay connected. When you graduate, stay connected to these organizations because, just it's good to, when you move forward in your lives, and it may not be like what you feel in the coalition, but you will always have them as a community to help you know that you can stand on those shoulders and you can be strong when you go into other spaces. So stay connected. This is beautiful to have so young, to see these examples, to have like adults around you that are really doing the work, that's organizing and showing you how to do that. It's really priceless. And I know you know it, but you're going to really know it when you get older. How special this is. So keep going, okay?
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for being here.
For having
Thank you so much, Tiffany.
I thought I knew a bit about police in schools, but I did not know that there are school districts with their own police departments. I've only heard of local police being placed in schools. That school districts would use billions of education dollars to invest in police departments as opposed to using that money to fund actual educational and socio-emotional resources in schools truly makes me angry and sad. I am so grateful to Joelle, Jeremiah, and Joseph for enlightening me on the past, present, and current state of policing in LAUSD, as well as the impactful work of the Police-Free LAUSD Coalition. As Joelle proclaimed, there's no reason for armed officers or armed adults to be on a school campus with teenagers. And as Joseph demanded, invest in what actually keeps our community safe, because safe schools are also connected to families and communities. Thank you for listening to part 3 of our Youth Resistance, Unsettling the Good Citizen series. If something from this episode resonates with you, please share it with others and let us know via social media or through our website, evolvingeducationproject.com. The film and links mentioned in this episode will be linked in the show notes. Also, this will be our last episode until after the winter break, but please use this time to catch up on old episodes. It is our hope that you will rest and enjoy time with family, friends, and community. That's what we'll be doing. We will air the next episode in the new year on January 15th. Trust, you do not want to miss it. On a side note, I want to apologize deeply for releasing this episode late. We strive to show up for our dedicated listeners when we say we will. We had some technological issues that tripled the editing time, and our team is still very small. Thank you for your patience and for sticking it out with us. Much love to you all. To find out more about the Evolving Education Project, to write in, or to join our listserv, check us out at evolvingeducationproject.com. And please subscribe to this podcast and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. If you can only choose one, please follow us on Instagram and love all of our posts. Support that doesn't cost a dime. If you've been enjoying our podcast, you can also support us by writing a review. Favorable reviews help more educators, organizers, families, communities, and activists to find us. We hope to continue to cultivate an authentic audience and community. We want you to help us to evolve over time and shape what this could be. Now that you know what we're about, let us know what you want to learn more about, authors that you would like us to interview, discussions you would like to have. Okay, that's all for now, good people. And remember, our episodes will resume after the winter break on Wednesday, January 15th. Alrighty then, we out.